are going to kickstart this. I am Recycle Rhonda. I do all of the school outreach for Chittenden Solid Waste District, and I am joined today by two fantastic ladies, Maisie and Joanne, and they will introduce themselves coming up here. So we've got 2, 4, 6 people. All right, 6 families joined in. Hot diggity, dog diggity. This is a webinar, so we can't see you, but you will eventually be able to see us. And at the bottom of your screen, if you jiggle your mouse, you will see a Q&A button. So we will be utilizing that today. Any questions you have, please put it in the box. We will also be throwing out some questions to you guys. And so this is all participatory, participants on board kind of workshop. And so we hope that you guys have a good time. Now, in your reminder email, at the bottom of that email actually was a link to a checklist. It is long. However, as we go through today, we would love for you guys to hang out and fill out things that you already are doing, things that you think you might want to try, and things maybe you're not so sure about, but we don't want to put it right out of your memory. All right, so we're going to kickstart it with a little video. This is a pretty cool video too, so hold on to your hats while we get started. What is the problem with kitchen, food waste, and climate? And maybe I will. Here we go. And maybe it won't play. Are you gonna play?
I'm on video.
It wants to. There we go. Ooh. Sorry, my internet isn't always the greatest. This was a possibility.
Sweet baby, I'll travel the world for you. I love you.
Can we get strawberries?
No, honey.
Please?
Okay.
All right, pretty powerful video just in the world of strawberries. So just to not to make you feel badly, by no means, we are here today to be problem solvers. And I forgot to kickstart it by saying Happy Earth Day, because today we are going to learn to be better stewards of this gorgeous earth in which we live, and give a little thanks for giving the life that we are able to live here. So this is a pie chart of all of the trash that we, Chittenden County residents and businesses, whether you work, play, or live in Chittenden County or all three, this is what we send to, we put in the trash every single year, 2019, sorry. Now, if you look at the organics part, the green section, organics are just food scraps, basically, and your paper towels and napkins. That is over 60 million pounds that we're sending to the landfill. Again, in 2019, we don't have data from last year yet. A portion of that is definitely food that was or is edible, meaning it could have been eaten if it didn't get pushed to the back of our fridges, or it was perfectly edible, but because sometimes people, we don't understand if something's bruised, we can cut it out and still, eat it, or expiration dates or all that. And we'll hopefully cover a lot of that stuff in today's workshop. All right, this is a picture of our one and only landfill in Vermont. That is about 70 miles from Williston. In Chittenden County, we send about 11 tractor trailer trucks Monday through Friday to this landfill. I'm showing you this because a lot of people don't know where our trash goes, but this is where it goes. You might ask yourself, what happens to it when it gets there? Well, basically, it goes into a giant pit in the earth, and this is a picture of carrots. So these carrots were dug out of a landfill. They are 10 years old. All right, yeah, a little black on the outside, but the inside is still orange, and the outside still looks like carrots. And that is after 10 years of being in a landfill. Now, while these carrots are sitting in the landfill, they are not decomposing into gorgeous compost that we can then use in our gardens to feed our plants or grass or trees. These guys are sitting in a landfill. They're making a whole lot of water, and they're making methane gas. Now, methane is about 25 times more a potent greenhouse gas than carbon dioxide. And landfills happen to be the third top producer of methane in the United States. So we can cut the amount of food we're tossing into the trash and actually reduce and reuse our food before we even have to recycle it as compost. Then that would be even better. I always say, feed your bellies before you feed the compost bin. This is the food recovery hierarchy for Vermont. This basically is showing the best options for food. One, let's reduce it when we're buying it. So let's buy less so that we can actually eat what we do buy and be cognizant or aware of what we're buying and plan for meals. And we will give you lots of tips today. Actually, more like Joanne and Maisie will give you lots of tips today on how to be at the top of this hierarchy. And then we want to feed the people, feed the animals, and then we can compost it. So without further ado, gang, let's get to work. All right, let me finish how to stop sharing this. All right. So, hi, I am Rhonda, and I am joined here by Joanne and Maisie. Take it away.
So, hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us on Earth Day. I'm Joanne Heidkamp, and I'm a registered dietitian for Hannaford. And my job at Hannaford is to help people with their healthy eating goals. And lately, I get a lot of questions about people who also want to make food choices with the health of the earth in mind. So this is a topic that is really interesting to me. This is my neighbor, Maisie, and she is also going to be sharing her Earth Day ideas today. If you downloaded the checklist, you'll see we got a lot of suggestions from family, friends, people who registered for this webinar. It is a long list. Please don't be overwhelmed. Think of it like a menu where you pick and choose what looks good to you. As we saw in the video, one good time to think about preventing food waste is right when you get home from the grocery store and start putting food away. I'm going to share just a few quick ideas. I forgot to bring home from Hannaford a bag of pre-washed lettuce. But if you do buy the pre-washed lettuce, it's a good idea to just slit the bag. Imagine that I'm holding one. Put a folded paper towel or small piece of fabric in there. That absorbs excess moisture in the bag, and that will keep that that pre-washed bag lettuce fresh for longer. I tend to buy the bulk lettuce. Couple things to know about this. You cannot store lettuce well in the mesh bag that you bring to the grocery store. It just exposes it to way too much air. So what I do when I buy the bulk lettuce is I wash it, I run it through the salad spinner, and then I have a couple dish towels just for this purpose. I lay the lettuce out on the dish towel, which has been just slightly dampened. And then this is an oversized towel. And then I roll it up. And then I store this in a plastic bag. And I do seal the top. I could look at the date. I'm sure I've been reusing this plastic bag. Everyone knows that the Dave's 21 whole grain and seeds is the lettuce. So this keeps lettuce. Actually, this lettuce I bought 8 days ago, and it still looks good enough to go on a sandwich or become a salad. I get a lot of questions about berries, and I think that's why the Ad Council chose berries as the star of that heartbreaking video. So berries always look tempting in the store. Couple things to know. Don't wash them until you're ready to use them. But when you get home from the store, they'll keep a little bit longer if you take them out of the tub they came in and put them in something where they have a little bit more room to breathe. I do have a paper towel folded at the bottom of this. And I'm just going to put my berries down. I'm going to give them a little paper towel blanket and then put the next layer down. The other thing this lets you do is if there is a berry that is moldy, you can grab it before that mold starts spreading. And then I cover it lightly, either with that lid that it came from, or I tent it in a plastic bag. But this gives you a few extra days with strawberries, with blueberries. I don't think anything really extends the life of raspberries. They are so highly perishable.
Hey, Joanne, I'm noticing that you're reusing a container there for your berries. Not only that, but you're reusing a black plastic container that we cannot recycle here in Vermont, so it would typically be trash. So I wanted to say kudos to you.
And it makes a great little berry nest. So the other one we know from statistics, potatoes and onions in their whole uneaten form get composted a lot. So the trick with both potatoes and onions, when you get home from the store, take it out of the plastic bag or the mesh bag it came in, put it into a cardboard box or a basket. One important thing is to keep potatoes and onions separate, because onions give off ethylene gas that cause potatoes to sprout sooner. Onions also will cause other things to sprout faster, so you really don't ever want them in a bowl next to the apples or the bananas. But again, when you take them out of the bag, if there is one that has started to rot or mold, you're going to spot it and you can remove it. Onions and potatoes are best stored not on the counter, not in the fridge, on a dark shelf in the cupboard, and again, separate from each other. The cans and boxes, which I don't have any props for, but kids can help with putting groceries away using a fun system called FIFO. And FIFO stands for first in, first out. And what that means is if you buy a couple cans of chickpeas, you pull the ones in the cupboard to the front and put the new ones behind. That way you're always using food with the oldest date first. Similar with putting milk and yogurt and dairy products in the fridge. If there's an open container of yogurt, pull that to the front, put the full container behind it, so the open container is going to get used up before you open the next one. We'll be talking about meat, fish, and poultry a little bit later in this webinar, but the strawberry video that you saw was brought to you by a group called SaveTheFood.com. Their website has almost an encyclopedia of almost any food you could imagine buying, telling you how to store it, how to revive it if it's no longer premium, but how to keep it long so that you can enjoy it instead of composting it. So we are now going to move on to Maisie, who will talk about once we have food home and start to cook.
When we're cooking, there's a lot of times we don't use the entire package of food. What we do with the rest of the package makes a difference on if we can eat it later or if it will go bad. If you're taking chips or cereal out of a bag, be sure to fold the bag over and seal it with a chip clip, or you can use a clothespin, a binder clip, or even a paper clip if you don't have the other ones. Certain foods get moldy really easily, like salsa, hummus, and cream cheese. To prevent this, you should always use a clean knife or spoon when serving yourself. You should never dip a chip or cracker right into the container. Some containers aren't easy to reseal once they're open. You can pop the whole box or bag into a Ziploc bag or reusable container. Sometimes you open a can of something and you only use part, such as chickpeas for a salad. It's not good to store food in cans in the fridge, so you should put the leftovers into a reusable container. And make sure you make sure you label and date the container with masking tape and a Sharpie.
So this one tip, having masking tape and a Sharpie, I'm convinced in most households would literally save hundreds of dollars a year just by knowing what's in that container and how long it's been there. Don't forget to date it, Maisie.
And I actually keep a marker and the tape right on top of my fridge so that like I know like where to go for it as soon as I'm putting something in there.
I keep one on top of the fridge. I keep one in a drawer on the counter. I have one in a secret place I'm not going to tell anyone because this stuff disappears. But what I've found is have multiples.
Excellent.
If you have a partly used container of yogurt or our jar of chickpeas, this is a good time for the Use Me First bin. You can use a basket or a shoebox or a clementine crate. Just make a label that says Use Me First and tape it on the front. Keep the Use Me First bin on the front of a shelf in the fridge. It's a great place to put half a lemon or an open yogurt or a little bit of chickpeas that need to get used up. Don't forget to check the Use Me First bin when you're preparing a meal.
Hey, Miss Maisie, I brought my, I wanted to show off my Use Me First bin too. And I've got me some bread and some onions in there. So it definitely works.
It's another one, I think. Maybe wouldn't save hundreds of dollars, but dozens of dollars. And it means I can always find that half lemon that I know I zested or used for a little bit of juice.
Yeah, and it works well with little kids too. So I used to live with a 5-year-old and we made a Eat Me First box because she would have like 75 yogurts open in the fridge. And once we started that, man, those yogurts like got used up and they didn't get moldy. So it does work.
Do you want to know something that even your parents probably don't know?
So here is the secret. The dates on food packages are not expiration dates and they're not safety dates. There's one exception to that I'll talk about later. But what you see on dairy products, milk, cheese, eggs, and perishables like meat is a sell-by date. Not a safety date, not an expiration date. It's a date to tell the store when it's been on display long enough. But once you get that food home, depending on what it is, it's good for another week in the case of milk, 2+ weeks in the case of yogurt, and at least 5 weeks in the case of eggs. So when you see that sell-by date in your fridge, you don't need to panic. You know you've got another week or more. On dry goods like pasta boxes, cookies, cereal, canned goods, there's a best by date. Again, it's not a toss me date. It's not an expiration date. It's definitely not a safety date. What that date means is the manufacturer is guaranteeing that food will be at its peak of nutritional value and quality up until that date. On midnight of that date, nothing bad happens. The food remains good for another year at least. But if you use FIFO, first in, first out, when you're shopping and put groceries away, hopefully you won't find many things in your cupboard that are past their best by date. Because if you look at a box of cereal or can, often that date is already about 2 years out. So I will mention the exception. The dates on infant food and infant formula is an expiration date. It is not safe to serve that food to infants after that date. Now, I would use an expired jar of baby food carrots in a carrot cake, but babies don't have such a robust immune system, so it's really important to honor those dates.
Excellent. And so I just wanted to throw out there too, the use by date, and milk is like a big thing for people. Like as soon as they see the date, I used to live with multiple roommates, and as soon as they saw the date, they just like dump the milk out. And having grown up on a farm and pretty darn poor in my house, we wasted nothing. And so we always got fresh milk, and there was no date on it. So my mom and dad were always just like, well, pop the top and smell it. Like if it smells bad, it is bad. Like then don't drink it because it's not going to taste as good. It's not that it's going to kill you or anything or make you sick. It just doesn't smell as much. I got milk. It went 20 days past that date. And I just kept putting a little bit in my coffee just to see if it curdled, but it didn't even smell bad till 20 days after that date. And I would have dumped 3/4 of a half a gallon down the drain and wasted that farmer's time and love and energy, not to mention my own cash. So smell your milk. And if you guys have questions, feel free to use the Q&A box at the bottom. We don't have any questions thus far. I guess we're doing an awesome job. So Miss Maisie, you are up next. Take it away. So it's not just for questions either, guys. So you can put in your comments too. If you have like great suggestions or fun little stories, feel free to share, please.
You can use way fewer paper towels if you use old t-shirts for spills and cleanups. You might still keep paper towels on hand, but you can use way less. Instead of paper napkins, you might want to try cloth napkins. Kids can make everybody in the family a napkin ring out of a paper towel tube.
And decorate them with stickers.
There's a fun way to use less dish soap by turning it into a spray. It saves money and it keeps soap out of our groundwater, rivers, and lakes. We have put the directions for how to do this in the handout. Another fun thing to try is to grow your own kitchen sponge. A loofah is a part of the cucumber family. You can grow it in Vermont if you start the seeds really early inside and if you're lucky to have a late frost on the other end. If you want to try this, Joanne will send you some seeds. Her email address is in the handout.
Awesome. So I'm excited about this whole loofah thing. So very excited to try that out. So I have a question for you guys out there in Zoom land. Despite us getting snow, and I'm sure some of you probably got more snow than I did, but we got probably about 3 or 4 inches here in Williston. Picnic time is right around the corner, fingers crossed. And so I would love to know ideas and ways that you guys reduce your impact on the earth by not using disposables. So no paper plates or cutlery or utensils and all that. What are some ways that you guys try to reduce the amount of trash that you make during picnic time or while you're eating outside? So pop your answers, your suggestions, your ideas into the Q&A, and we will get to that in just a hot second. But Miss Maisie's got something to show you all.
Something I do is pack a reusable lunchbox for school. We have a variety of reusable containers in different sizes, and I bring my own silverware and napkin. When I get home, when you get home, and when I get home, unpack the lunchbox. The containers can get washed, and any leftovers can get composted. Or if they're still good, you can eat them as a snack.
Excellent. All right, so there are a few questions that rolled in. Excellent. Nobody answered my answered the question about what their picnic style is for using reusables, but
I have an answer for that.
oh, excellent.
The audience questions.
All right, so Miss Heidi wants to know that if you could possibly review, Joanne, the strawberry storage technique. She just wanted you to go over that again.
So instead of putting that container of strawberries right in the fridge that I bought it in, I use a slightly larger container. I line it with a paper towel or a piece of cloth, and then I lay the strawberries in so they are not quite touching one another. And this is also a good time to check to see if any strawberry is going bad and needs to get tossed or the bad part cut out and enjoyed. For if there's a second layer, I put another paper towel. I put the next layer. And then I either put the original lid or a loosely tented bag. And that gives strawberries an extra day or two at least.
Excellent, thanks. Caitlin would like to know, she's just curious about what the reason is to not store open cans of food in the fridge.
Cans were not made, once they're exposed to oxygen, cans just weren't made as a storage container. So I would have to go dig deeper into the details on that. And I probably would do it if I was going to use the remainder overnight. But if you're not going to use those chickpeas for another 4 or 5 days, they're much better in a fresh container with a well-fitting lid.
All right, and Sonia would like to know the name of the sponge fruit thing.
This is called a loofah.
Spelled L-U-F-F-A or L-O-F-F-A. And it has been used, the heirloom seeds that I got actually call it the dish rag fruit.
Fantastic. All right, we have a few. So Becca says that in her family, they have a lovely set of plasticware and silverware for camping and picnicking that they use over and over again. So thanks, Becca. And Kat wants to know, how early do you need to start growing loofah seeds? Could we do it for this season?
It's definitely worth a try. You need to start them indoors. So I started mine a couple weeks ago, and the seeds take a long time to germinate. As soon as we're past the frost date, so maybe around Mother's Day, I put it in the garden. I water it daily. It needs a lot of tending. And the main thing is it grows slower than a cucumber. So you don't necessarily, by the time you're getting a nice sized loofah, it's getting close to the frost date. And what you want is for that loofah to grow on, to dry on the vine. So when I lived in Ohio, I could grow literally dozens every year. I have a harder time being successful in Vermont, but I have done it. And it's always fun just to try. I see Sonia is asking what fruit expires first out of all of them. My temptation is to say raspberries. I'm curious if other people have thoughts on that.
Yeah, share your thoughts. And Joanne, on that note, what are your thoughts on how to reduce your impact on the earth during picnic time?
So when inevitably I get plastic silverware. I keep it, I wash it, and I always have a bag of it in my glove box. So if I'm at the grocery store or a quick stop and I do buy a single serve yogurt, one is they may not all quick stops have a spoon, but I can use one of my reusable ones, and I've got it's plastic, so I'm not putting good silverware out in the car. So I tend to like to stash it. I also really try to keep a spork in my purse, in my day pack. So that's another way I can avoid taking the plastic when it's offered if I am doing to-go food.
Fantastic. And Jenna says for picnics, her family makes sure they don't overpack too much food that could go bad if they're out all day with the food in the cooler. Nice thinking, Jenna. I like it. All right. And then Sonia wants to know what veggies expire first out of all of them.
I think this is not a scientific answer. I think delicate greens, certainly herbs, and lettuce. I'd love to hear what other people's experience is. And sometimes it really depends on how long it's been in transit to the stores. Because sometimes you can buy something that looks luscious and 2 days later you're starting to see slime. I'm not quite sure. Also, I work in a grocery store, so I buy produce every other day. So I am really not trying to store it for a long time for the most part.
Yeah, I have to say, for me, it's herbs go bad. That's why I like to grow as much as I can. Heidi says spring mix. Yes. And Caitlin says cucumbers are their experience. One more question from Sonia. Why do carrots get furry and hairy?
Sounds like they're going bad. I think of carrots as something that will last in my fridge for a really long time.
So I think what you're referring to, Sonia, is the root hairs. And so what's happening is the carrot is still alive in there, despite it not having its tops. But what it's trying to do is send out roots to get nutrients. And because it's a little moist in your refrigerator, it's like, oh, let me send out little. And so the furry part is just really small rootlets or root hairs. And so they're just sending out anything to get a little nutrients because they want to continue to grow. They have no idea, because they don't have any brains, they have no idea that they are like no longer in the ground and that they're about ready to get consumed and put into your belly. So that's all that is. All you have to do is, I eat them. I don't even peel my vegetables, but just give it a scrub or just peel them off. It's no big deal. It's just that they're trying to survive. That's all.
Okay, so it's kind of like the green top on an onion or
the eyes to potatoes.
Yeah, little sprouts on a potato.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, same thing. They're just trying to survive and reproduce.
Yep.
Excellent.
So does it affect the ability to eat it unless
Definitely not. No. All right. Well, with that, we cleared out our Q&A. Thank you guys for participating and giving your ideas and your great questions. But now I am going to, because I am Recycle Rhonda, I'm going to show you some ways that you can reduce your impact and fatten your wallet by maybe expanding things instead of buying everything so in single-use packaging. And I understand the convenience, totally get it. But if you can fatten your wallet and then on top of that, reduce the impact on our great Mother Earth, I say give at least one thing a try. Nobody's asking you to check everything off on the list today, but if you can just try one thing new on that checklist today, step in the right direction. Change takes time, and especially if you're in a family. For me, I just fly solo, so changing myself is pretty easy. However, I have lived with a lot of people over the years, and changing is hard, but you can do it. And it's just one step at a time. So first thing first, we're gonna talk about juice boxes. When I lived with My buddy and her little kid, she had all these juice boxes, and I got it. Mom worked really early in the morning. She worked pretty long hours. Her convenience was just like, let me just pack this kid's lunch and throw in a juice box. So when I moved in, I was like, oh, the juice boxes are driving me a little bananas, because juice boxes, guys, are not recyclable. All right. Maybe in other communities, but even that I question, because they are made out of plastic, metal, and paper, all stuck together, and we can't get them apart. No go on the recycling. So all of those juice boxes must go into the trash. All right. Instead, not to mention, they're a lot more expensive. And we're talking, for juices, it's about 1.5 times more expensive to buy juice in the juice boxes than it is in the actual jug. So same kind of juice, only this jug here, one, will last you longer, and two, once it's empty and rinsed clean, it can get made into new things. It can get recycled. Trash, boo. Recycling, yay. Just joking. Not making you feel bad. I get the convenience. One way we overcame that, because the mom I lived with was like, well, I don't have time to do that. So me and the little Kit Kat on Sundays would set out her 5 juice containers. And at first we started off just using like old little creamer, like little cream, reusing the milk carton, the milk containers. We would fill up her juices, and she loved it because we got out a funnel. We just made it a lot of fun. We made a mess too, but that's okay. And she would pour all her juices out, tighten them up, and put them in the fridge. And then we started like packing lunches right after dinner. So we'd put some leftovers in a little reusable container. She'd pack that up, put it in her lunch, shove the lunch bag in the fridge. Out the door she went with her little reusable juice bag box. Mom was saving money. She was wicked happy. It made the whole house happy. It might not be for everyone, but these are just some ideas maybe to kick around for you guys. Next on the list is the squeezy fruit and vegetables, like the applesauce. I do not have an example of that because, I mean, I don't have kids, so I don't have that. But they're the little green, like Go Squeeze or something, I think they're called. Everything in that packaging is trash. So once they squeeze the applesauce into their face, that's it. That whole thing's going to the trash. I would maybe nudge you towards getting a big jar of applesauce and maybe doling it out into like little reusables like this. And again, snap it shut, put it in the lunchbox. Good to go. Not to mention you'd be saving a lot of money. I have it down here because I can't remember. So the squeezy fruit stuff is 3 times more expensive per ounce than buying like a big jar of applesauce. So just said, if you want to fatten that wallet, chips and snacks. Chips are like my favorite thing to eat. I do make my own chips, but I'm not asking anybody to go to those extremes. It can be quite expensive to buy like the little individual packs. So buy the big bag of chips and again, dole them out into little containers. Better yet, I don't know if you guys, I'm like addicted to this Talenti stuff. Love it. Best yet, these containers are the best storage containers ever. They work for sliced up apples. They work for potato chips, and then it doesn't smush them all up in there. I also use it for stock. I labeled mine. I didn't date it though, so sorry. I will get on that little note. Popcorn, always a big one. So this is a bag of Smart Food, and these are 12 singles. And I get how easy it is to be like, oh, let me throw that in my kid's lunch bag. I understand that totally. But look at all this trash, all of that. And the big bag too, all trash. Not trying to make you feel bad, just telling you the truth of it all. So instead of buying the individually packed ones, why not just buy a big bag of Smart Food? All right, save 2.5 times the amount of money and just again, dole it out into a dish or reuse a dish and put the popcorn in that. Better yet, make your own. So I'm not actually a super fan of popcorn, but I will eat this. So this morning I made a pot of popcorn. Kids, super fun to pop your own popcorn. I don't even know if people people know how to pop their own popcorn anymore, but we used to have that thing that you shushled on the stove and it would like pop, 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 and it'd make this big silver dome. We didn't have microwaves back in the day. Yep, dinosaur times, that's me. However, you could, but I just did this in a pot and it's so much fun. And it took very little time to actually pop and you get to see all the popcorn popping on up. Super fun activity. Maybe not for like 5 or 6 year olds, depending on your stove restrictions. However, in my house with the kindergartner I lived with, we did a lot. Her mom was a chef, so kitchen was where we pretty much lived. But she loved popping popcorn on the stove. You can get the powdered cheddar cheese online. I can't find it. Cabot used to make shaky cheese. They do not make it anymore, which makes me sad. But you can get powdered cheese. And for a mere 17 cents an ounce, you can make your own smart food. What? And if you buy popcorn in one of these jars, just like this bad boy here, guess what? Recyclable. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with microwave popcorn. I just don't have a microwave. And I would prefer to make sure that something I'm buying is at least recyclable as opposed to just tossing it into the landfill. Last, is it the last? Almost last. Yogurts. There was a lot of questions actually. Let me just get all this out of the way. There was a lot of questions about yogurts and reusing yogurt cups. Now, in my house, I buy like the 2-pounders, all right? I buy the big things of yogurt, and then I just, again, dish them out into reusable dishes. And then add my fruit to that. I actually make my own granola. So then I just add that into it afterwards, and then I've got a crunchy, delicious snack. However, now I don't know what happened to that because I was like throwing everything all over the place. I did have a little yogurt cup here. And now I have no idea. Oh, there it is. Haha. All right. So if you do buy the single serve little yogurt cups, that's okay. You know, they can be recycled, but make sure they are that clean. And by that clean, I mean, you can't recognize what was once in there. Rinse, 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 then recycle. The little tops that are these little metal tops cannot go into the recycle bin. They get folded up and crumpled up and they get too small. My rule is nothing smaller than a squirrel's head can go into that recycle bin. But what I have at my house, I have a good old scrap metal bin, right like this one. And you can pop it in there. And then you can take it down to a drop-off center, dump it right into the big scrap metal bin. And that aluminum will get made into new bicycles. No big deal. But if you buy it in giant containers, these containers can be reused for so many different things. I have them all over my house labeled. So like this one here is my hazardous waste stuff. So my little things that go in there that I need to take to the environmental depot. Also another one for my mercury bulbs. And then I've got buttons and screws and nails and you name it. They're great because they come with this fantastic lid. You can use these little guys though for like seedling starters, little paint thingy-majigs, like to put your paint in it and all of that good stuff. So there are reusables there. Last but not least, and something that Vermont is really, really good at, we Vermonters are super good at using the reusable water bottle. I pretty much every kid has one. Every school I've been to, pretty much every child has one of these, which is fantastic because if nothing makes you stop buying bottled water, this should. One, Vermont has really delicious tap water, whether it's from your well or even the municipal town water, pretty darn tasty. If you don't like the taste, you can always get a Brita filter or some sort of water filter, filter it out, or put it in an old like milk jug, let it sit out for 2 or 3 days, and that chlorine will disappear eventually out of it. And then you won't have that, at least that chlorine taste to it. But bigger yet, water costs. So per gallon, tap water costs less than a penny a gallon. Bottled water can cost $9.60 a gallon. That is 1,500 times more expensive and some companies just use tap water and then add some minerals to it. So don't get fooled by those bottled water companies and just use your tap water. It's all good. And we did a study at Colchester High School. That's how I know the cost of water. All right, that is my spiel on reducing it down and fattening your wallet. Back to you, Joanne.
Okay, well, next subject is meat, fish, poultry, animal protein. I could do a whole webinar on this, but we're actually going to spend a couple minutes and I'm going to cover 3 main points. The first one is that beef that is grown through conventional agriculture, large scale, is probably the food we eat that is the most unfriendly to the planet. It takes a lot of energy to feed a beef animal, to transport it to the slaughterhouse, to keep that finished meat cold all the way through transport. So if you eat beef, think about these options. The first is when you bring it home, treat it with respect and wrap it carefully if you're going to put it in the freezer. I don't like to use masking tape in the freezer. It can fall off and leave me with mystery food. So I do spend $2.99 a roll at Ace Hardware in South Burlington on freezer tape. There's a Scotch brand and a Duck brand. This adheres down to 40 degrees below zero. So you won't have that situation with mystery meat. The packaging that you buy your meat in the grocery store really wasn't made for freezer storage. So it's good to do additional plastic or freezer wrap. And again, then label. When you're planning a beef meal, either cook just enough for that meal or have a plan in place as to how you're going to use the leftovers so that every bit of beef that you've bought gets eaten by humans. If possible, buy local beef, which uses a lot less inputs than the commercial beef that comes from the large agricultural operations that send the creatures to feedlots. So local beef is an option. And then another idea is for certain cuts of beef, particularly ground beef, consider moving down the food chain to ground chicken or ground turkey, because neither of those uses as many resources as it does to create beef. People ask me if they should go meatless for the environment, and not everyone is ready for that. I'm not ready for that. But instead of thinking meatless, maybe think less meat. And that applies to any animal protein, beef, chicken, poultry, turkey. So there are lots of traditional recipes that we use that stretch that pound of meat to feed more people, usually by adding vegetables or grains or both. So think about something like shepherd's pie with a lot of mashed potatoes and other vegetables. Chili, where you just keep adding beans and maybe canned corn. Vegetable noodle soup with chicken. So these are ways traditionally that people have used to make a little meat go a long way. And there are a lot of these recipes that you probably already know and love. So they're not meatless, but they're definitely less meat. And then you have the opportunity to slowly build your list of family-friendly meatless main meals. So I was in the store today and someone was talking about, should we do tomato soup and grilled cheese? And I was thinking, aha, vegetarian meal. Mac and cheese with veggies, vegetarian meal. I did a series of cooking classes this winter, and one of the foods that kids loved was a peanut sesame sauce with linguine. And that's not just meatless, that's vegan. It was a new food to a lot of the kids, but they really enjoyed that. You can make tacos with avocado, refried beans, rice. You may not even notice that there's no meat. There are some ethnicities, there are some cultural groups that have a lot of traditional meatless meals. So some time ago, I learned how to make samosas filled with potatoes and peas. Again, that's a vegan food and really delicious. And the kids in my house have really enjoyed that. Falafels, another meatless meal that a lot of kids enjoy. If you're interested in learning more about sustainable seafood, the Seafood Watch website from the Monterey Bay Aquarium is a great place to go to get advice on which of the seafood products are most sustainable. As a dietitian, I know that changing the way you eat can be a big deal. So it is not something to jump into. Better to take baby steps. When you offer new foods, maybe introduce them alongside something that's already familiar and loved. Get tried and true recipes from friends and family. But with baby steps, you will notice at the end of 6 months or a year that you've been able to reduce your meat consumption and you're still eating nutritiously and deliciously. So we got a lot of questions when people registered for this webinar about leftovers. Again, I could do a whole 45-minute webinar and I'm not going to, but there are some guiding principles that can help to reduce the leftover problem. So I think the first one is, if you're cooking more than you need for one meal, whether it's a pot of chili, spaghetti sauce, soup, have a plan right from the beginning for what you're going to do with the extras. Are you going to pack these as lunches? Are you going to put a whole meal aside in the freezer for next month? Or are you going to use some of the leftovers for dinner some night later in the week? A lot of families that we've talked to plan leftovers nights. And one thing I like to do in this house is we do a baked potato bar where I bake big fresh baked potatoes. And then we heat up all different kinds of leftovers from the fridge, the meat, the vegetables, and those become the baked potato toppings and the sides. And we can really make a dent in leftovers in the fridge that way. We also get questions about particular foods. And here's one: if you notice something is frequently left over in your house, Google is your friend. So Google, what do I do with leftover X? And the three we got asked about were bread. Number one, if it's whole pieces of bread, slightly stale, toss in the freezer. Come Saturday or Sunday morning, French toast. Or Friday night, bread pudding. I tend to turn most of our leftover bread and crusts into breadcrumbs, which make great casserole toppings. For leftover rice, again, you've got rice pudding, you've got fried rice, Spanish rice. I actually, when I'm cooking a whole grain, I usually cook double because it freezes so well. So if I'm cooking something like barley or brown rice that takes a long time, I always make extra that I store in the freezer in those 3-cup yogurt containers, carefully labeled and dated. Someone asked about leftover pasta, which I didn't know was even a thing, but so I used Google, and the Pioneer woman said, make individual lunches, have pesto frozen in refrigerator, in ice cube trays. That makes a great lunch. I always have a jar of sesame noodle sauce, so that would be a leftover lunch. Or if there's a lot, turn it into a pasta salad. She also has recommendations for a leftover pasta frittata, which got lots of great reviews on her website. If the problem is leftover food on plates, consider using smaller plates or smaller serving spoons on the table. Our eyes are usually bigger than our stomach. So if you're kind of manipulating things so that people are serving smaller amounts, there may be less leftovers. Milk is another food that does get frequently wasted. If the problem is milk at the bottom of the glass, In this house, we found that by switching to a much smaller Clifford the Big Red Dog mug from the Goodwill, just by using a smaller glass, it was not an overwhelming amount of milk and it got drunk. Milk at the bottom of cereal bowls, some families drink it, some families dump it out. I would say either try to pour less milk on the cereal or learn to hold up that bowl and drink that tasty milk. If milk starts to go sour in the carton, I freeze that in 1 cup containers. It's great for muffins, it's great for pancakes, it's great for cornbread, and it's sour. It is not spoiled. Sour milk becomes all kinds of delicious things. I will say that one of my favorite fridge and freezer containers are the ball jars I get at yard sales, sometimes 10 for $1. And then I do splurge on the Ball brand leak-proof lids that probably cost 80 cents to $1 a piece. And unfortunately, I can only find them online. But this turns a Ball jar into a great lunch container, freezer container. The other thing, if I can find it, Rhonda talked about cleaning things for the recycle bin. Using a small kid-sized silicone scraper. One is you're getting the last of that food out to put on, like spaghetti sauce, to put on your spaghetti. The other is it's a great way to clean the jar before it goes into the blue bin. And I think that brings us back to Rhonda and recycling.
Excellent. So yeah, we're just going to go over a few tips. We've got 4 minutes left, so I just don't want to take up anybody's time more so than I have to. But so for composting, the basic rules are anything that was once alive, anything that came from a plant or an animal can be turned into compost. If you're composting at home, it is recommended that you don't stick meat and bones in your backyard. And that is only because skunks and raccoons really like them and they smell it out and can tear your bin apart. I've always composted everything when I was composting outside. So it's not that it won't, it's just that they attract bad, menaces or troublemakers, as they're called. I feel like I would have been a raccoon or a skunk if I were an animal in my life. But so know that these little stickers, I know a lot of people don't think that they are a big deal on fruits and vegetables, but I tell you, my friends, they are. They do not compost. They will not compost. And if you buy compost from, our compost facility, Green Mountain Compost, you will see those stickers coming back to you in the compost because they do not break down. So please, please, please take your stickers off. I do this as soon as I get home from the grocery store so I don't forget to do it. Also, and you have a link to this in your follow-up email, a resource. We do have little cards that you can order or you can print out to put on your fridge. I just usually use scrap piece of paper that says your stickers go here. Put them on there. You could have a card for every kid. Compete who's eating the most fruit and vegetables. I don't know, but take those stickers off, please. And thank you. Let me see what my other thing was. Oh, pizza boxes. I know that I didn't have a pizza box. So I know that's confusing for a lot of people. No food. So when you're putting something in the recycle bin, it should never have food or drink in it. If it has food attached to your pizza box, like cheese or pepperoni or whatever, pick it off, put it in your compost, turn that into fantastic soil, and then you can actually recycle that whole box. The grease isn't a problem, but stuck on food is. So please take the food off. If you're not going to take the food off, you can pop it in your compost pile at home, or in this case, it's gonna have to go to the trash. But I encourage you to please take the extra step, flip the cheese off, put it in your compost, and then just recycle the pizza box. Last but not least, plastic. Everybody's got questions about this. So yes, this is made out of plastic. This is also made out of plastic. This is also made out of plastic, but the difference between these plastics and this plastic is this. is flip floppy. This hard plastic. Flip floppy plastic has absolutely no business in your blue recycle bin, but wrong bin, Rhonda. All right. If you get creative at home, and this is like an activity you guys can do at home, you can create yourself your own flip floppy plastic bin. Put your flip floppies up in there and take them back to the grocery store. Most grocery stores have a take back program. I know Shaw's, Hannaford, and Price Chopper have it. City Market does not. They stopped their program. They might start it back up after the pandemic is a little more under control, but I don't know if they will. And we have a plastic bag ban here in the States, so I'm not sure they're bringing that back. But Hannaford, Shaw's, and Price Chopper will take them back. They send them to a company called Trex. Trex takes it, chops it all up, and makes lumber out of it, actually like decking. They make chairs. And if you ever visit York, Maine, there's a train bridge made out of, you get it, man, flip floppy plastic. So pretty cool stuff. Make sure that your hard plastic is rinse clean. This is tahini. It is hard to get out. It's much like peanut butter. But
Scraper.
Get out your silicone flipper and scrape that thing clean. 2, you can, if you have a dog, they love licking this stuff out as well as they do any kind of nut butters. And 3, fill it up with water or just leave it sit in your sink, and as you're washing your hands, it'll fill up. Cap it, give it a nice strong shake-a-rake-a-roo-ya, all right, and leave it sit overnight, and in the morning, most of that stuff will come right out. Or you can throw it in the dishwasher, but please make sure they're clean. Real people are touching our recycling. Real people are hand sorting all of the stuff in our blue bin. So imagine you being on that line and getting a moldy yogurt cup or a moldy peanut butter thing. Please think of the people, and let's rinse, 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 then recycle. All right, there are no questions. So I would like to say thank you all for joining us on this fabulous Earth Day. Although there is snow out there, it is still a wonderful Earth. I know there will be warmth coming sometime soon. I'm going to get out this weekend and enjoy the sunshine. So thank you. Thank you, Joanne and Maisie. This has been a fabulous learning experience for me. What would you guys like to say?
Thank you very much for joining us this Earth Day. You know how to get in touch with us through your that final email you get from Rhonda. And I see a few goodbye comments. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you all for joining us. Thanks for participating. We'd love to do it again sometime.
Excellent. Have a great weekend, doll. Take care.